And by the
Okay.
way, this is the first time I've ever did something like this.
Hey, we're all learning. This is all new to lots of us.
Oh, yeah.
With that, I will welcome you all to the Mid-Ohio Valley Public Forum video podcast. This podcast features issues of interest to the residents of the Mid-Ohio Valley area, mainly encompassing Wood County, West Virginia, and Washington County, Ohio. Right now, with the coronavirus pandemic, civic life has changed greatly throughout our country.
This is a presidential election year, and one of the things that has changed is that candidates are not able to campaign as they normally would. Generally, in an election year, they'd be out there attending ice cream socials and bean dinners, shaking hands and kissing babies. But we can't do any of that right now.
So most of our initial podcasts will be interviews with candidates for local office. If you're a candidate and you're interested in being interviewed and we haven't reached out to you yet, please contact us either through our Facebook page, the Mid-Ohio or the MOV Public Forum, or you can reach us at movpublicforum@gmail.com.
And today we'll be interviewing Mike Cottrell. Mike is running for mayor of Parkersburg. So welcome, Mike. We're greatly pleased that you decided to join us.
Thank you. I truly appreciate the invitation and the opportunity to be able to reach out and have some discussion with you all and be able to forward it on to the Mid-Ohio Valley. As you all mentioned there a minute ago, with the COVID-19 crisis, it has totally turned any type of campaigning upside down. And we're all, having to try to work outside the typical box. And it's a great opportunity. You all come up with a fantastic idea and highly appreciated. I mean, I really, truly appreciate your all's public support.
Great. We're glad to do it. We're very civically active folk, and this was just one way that we could think of to help move our city forward, because that's our biggest goal. So with that, we will dive right in. Do you have an elevator speech? So if we were traveling together in an elevator and you had 1 minute to persuade me to vote for you, what would you say?
Yes, I definitely do. And very simply put, I am very family oriented. And that's a very broad statement. Not only immediate family, but extended family, our seniors in the family. And their safety and future is vital. So I concentrate, a lot of my concentration is towards the family orientation. And we're not in a real good position right now for that, especially our young generations coming up. So if there's something that's really top on my list, it would be to talk to the working class, the mothers, the fathers, and the grandparents of we need to get everything pulled back together and we need to get everybody on the same page. And like I said, without family, we have nothing. And of course, there is all kinds of discussion about city itself and its assets and different tangents there. But high priority on family and the safety of our youngins and our general age class right now.
I think you may have jumped in there and already answered the question that I'm about to answer, but I'll ask it anyway. What is your main reason for running for mayor? What is motivating you to step up and run for the office?
That's a good question. I spent 28 years volunteering for a large community event here in Parkersburg. And the last 3.5 years, I was the president of that organization, and I dealt hand in hand, eye to eye with a lot of the city officials. And things didn't go as good as they could have possibly have went, looking out for the well-being of the community and, providing a family event. So that kind of opened my eyes. So then I backed up and started evaluating everything across the board and decided that with my background in management and leadership, I could definitely set some new standards and raise that bar of excellence and tailor to our community. And that's pretty much what brought me over to decide to run for mayor. And this wasn't an overnight decision. This decision was made 18, 19 months ago. So it wasn't something I took lightly. With my background experience, kind of watching and monitoring everything through the years, I saw good, I saw not so good. So I knew it was time to make a change and to bring some new light, new insight to our community and to help Parkersburg across the board.
And that parlays perfectly into the next question. What do you have to offer the residents of Parkersburg that you think your competition in the race might not?
Very simply, or simply put, 3.5 decades of hands-on work experience. I was very fortunate. I had dual careers, one in engineering project management. The other one was in the fire service in the emergency services sector of the world. Both of those careers were as the management, upper level management, if not the fire chief, executive fire chief. So with each one of those, there's special or a handful of tangents that brought different job experience to the table. And looking across the board right now, what Parkersburg's looking at or facing, just about every one of those experiences will need to be applied to get a handle on everything and to get the community back in tip-top shape.
So what do you think is your wow factor? What is this one thing that if someone knew that about you, it would make them go, wow, I'm going to vote for that guy?
Here again, very simple. It's an individual that has multi-tangents of job experience in leadership and management. I've been, like I said, very fortunate. And whether it's finance, whether it's hands-on project control or coordination, whether it's an HR issue dealing with individuals. I've been lucky, and through my education and job, I bring a total package to the table. And if I get into an area that I'm unfamiliar with, I typically know enough to back up, and I know when to ask for help from a specialist. And I am not afraid to reach out and ask for that assistance, because there's more than one set of eyes is always better.
If you're elected, what is your single top priority? If you had to choose one thing that needs to definitely happen during your next term, what would you say that is?
That's a twofold. That's almost a double edge right there. Here again, bring back the togetherness or bring back the family orientation to the community. In a parallel path or in conjunction with that, bring Parkersburg back as an oriented, family-oriented community. Now, I don't want that to take oversight of how important the other city issues are, but across the board here again, bringing the family orientation back, make it a great place to raise a family. And like I said, we'll address the other issues of infrastructure and things like that later. But simply put, family orientation.
What do you see as the 3 largest problems facing Parkersburg, and what would you hope to do about them?
Those 3 are easy in my eyes. COVID-19 changed the ball game overnight, literally overnight. So number 1 would be the drugs, elimination of the drug, the distribution, the low-end street user. Part 2 of that would be corruption across the city. There's all kinds of opportunities there to clean up some kind of shady deals, I guess you could say. And they're not in the best interest of the residents. But now, top of the list, parallel with those, is economic redevelopment. And don't confuse that with economic development. Economic development's typically referred to as bringing in new business. The economic redevelopment is where we need to reach out, work hand in hand with our existing businesses, whether corporation or the mom and pop businesses. They're suffering drastically right now, especially the family-owned businesses. And it's our responsibility, or my responsibility as mayor, if elected, to offer them any assistance and guidance that we can to salvage that business. Without our businesses, we have nothing. You know, it's almost like family. It's a same theory, same applications, just different levels. Parkersburg as a city, if you don't have business and infrastructure, financial infrastructure, you don't have anything. So, and of course, infrastructure there is defined in many different levels. But we are basically store, retail, food franchise. We've got a couple manufacturers left in the area. And I'd like to expand that, and I don't want to get too far into it here. But right now, it's economic redevelopment. We need to save and salvage everybody that we have existing.
How do you feel about compromise?
Oh, that's very simple. It is absolutely required. And I've always been a pretty good person to compromise with. However, without going too far with that statement, I will say it'll be within a set of guidelines. I'm not willing to cross the line and allow something illegal or shady take place. I am willing to work and compromise, find that happy medium, and totally support that. Without compromise, a manager or leader, they're missing a critical aspect to that role. So you got to be able to identify and understand and be willing to compromise. Otherwise, what's the old saying? You're beating a dead horse.
So would you say you, quote unquote, play well with others?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I have very few individuals that are upset with me, and typically it was over a misunderstanding or miscommunication taken wrong. But yes, in my 40 years as an adult, I've always got along great with people, and just not locally. I owned 3 private businesses of my own through the years. One of them was a fire consulting business, and I traveled nationwide, and I dealt with literally hundreds of cities and communities, being their mayors, their council, the leadership of the community. And in a 12, 15-year period, absolutely had a spotless record. And it goes back to compromise. You know, you always have different personalities, but yes, absolutely.
So Parkersburg operates with a strong mayor form of government. For those who aren't sure what that means, it's when the mayor is the head of the executive branch of city government and holds the power to both appoint and remove department heads and other executive branch employees, as well as preparing and administering the multi-million-dollar city budget. Do you know how much, approximately, how many millions of dollars last year's budget was? And what executive and financial experience do you have that will help you manage the people and the money?
Yes, very easy question. The last 2 or 3 years, our budget hit right in between $31 and $33 million annually across the board. Yes, there's fluctuation to that. Right now, I don't want to say right now, prior to the COVID-19 outbreak, Parkersburg was pretty solid. We was in pretty decent shape financially. Will there be reductions going forward? Yes. If anybody don't believe that, they're not up to speed with what's going on worldwide, statewide, nationwide. We unfortunately, from the loss of revenue for the last 8 weeks, are going to be forced on making some hard decisions and have to make some reductions somewhere. And we're going to have to be very creative and think outside the box of how to do that and do it in a positive way, whether it's temporary or whether it's going to end up being permanent. The outfall from COVID-19, I don't think it's going to be a permanent life changer. It's going to make us back up and reevaluate and make some changes, yes. But going forward with the 2021 budget, we will have to make some revisions to it. Background experience as an engineering project manager for UI DuPont for 11 years. The last 11 years I worked for him before retirement. My annual budget hit anywhere from 11 million to 13 million a year. And I was responsible and held accountable to make sure at year end that I was within plus or minus 7%. Otherwise, it went against us on our job review. I was very fortunate. I had a great crew that worked for me, 22 dedicated individuals, engineers, designers, chemists. Every year we hit 3 to 4%. And so yes, dealing with numbers, 11 years experience on the financial side. Nothing new. That's a ball game that I shined at, and actually it was a lot of fun. A lot of people say, oh my gosh, that's stressful. No, it's not. It's if you got the correct background, job experience, it's a lot of fun working with individuals and doing different projects and managing it. So it all boils down that it's just not solely my decision. The mayor has a hierarchy below him or her, and you got to have good people underneath of you. Otherwise, the chief's only good as his end-ends. And if you don't have good end-ends, the chief's not going to be very good either. So yeah, job experience firsthand will definitely play a role.
You've already kind of answered this question, but I'll let you elaborate if you'd like. How do you see the job of mayor changing in this post-COVID-19 world?
I'm sorry, you just kind of broken up there. Something
Oh,
happened. Your screen kind of went little squares in a whole bit.
okay. You've already kind of answered this question. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yeah, you're clear.
Okay, but I'll give you a chance to elaborate further if you'd like to. How do you see the job of mayor changing in the post-COVID-19 environment?
Sure, that's another great question. And let me start out and say, comparing to pre-COVID-19, compared to post-COVID-19, the changes are going to be drastic. I think always before, the individuals that held that position put a lot of emphasis and guidance on business across the board. To survive now, we're going to have to back up and apply some energy and direction towards our residents and dealing with one-on-one, listening to the residents clearly, closely, working one-on-one and talking to our businesses. It's going to take some engagement from the mayor to the people, the residents of the city, and just as equally as important to our business owners. So sitting behind the desk 8 hours a day, those days are gone. You're going to have to be high energy and get out there and talk to the individuals. So yes, I see a big change, and that's just very simply up front.
What do you think your worst enemy would say is your worst quality?
That's easy. I'm a straight shooter, and they're going to tell you that I'm not afraid to call them out. And not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying I'm always right, but if there's a disagreement, I'm going to call them out, and I'm not shy about it. Being a manager or in leadership role, you can't have that. You can't have that trait. You know, you've got to be able to lock in one-on-one, and if there's a difference, address it. And I'd say, yeah, we all got 2 or 3 enemies, whatever, or people out there. I don't say enemies, people out there that don't think a whole lot of you. I bet you if you dug down deep into it, you'll find out that they tried to pull something that I threw the flag on. And otherwise, I get along with everybody, and I make an attempt. And don't take that wrong. It's not to say that we'll always see eye to eye, because that's human nature. But I know when to compromise. There's that word again. And I know when to look and reevaluate my opinion, my outlook. And I've done it multiple times. I'm not afraid to say that. I'm not always right. But I've had individuals come back and reconvince me and show me the right way. And I got the highest respect for someone like that. I'm not one to have individuals underneath of me that are like, I hate using this term, but puppets. I don't want to be a yes man. I want individuals that shine and really know their portfolio or their job. And if I miss something, I want them to bring it to me and say, hey, Mike, you need to look at this, and here's why. And otherwise, you're destined for failure. And that list of the left side of people that don't care for you or your enemy grows. And it can be long-term or it can be overnight. I do know going forward with some decisions we're going to have to make, they're going to be mandated to make, and they're not going to be popular. But we're going to do the best we can to keep it positive and to work with individuals in different organizations. And I think everybody realizes that we're in a pretty bad situation. So I don't want that to go to the wayside. It's not a walk in the roses right now. And the next 36 months are going to be critical. And it changed the game across the board. It definitely did.
So the flip side of that question is, what do you think is your best quality?
Actually, it's a spinoff of what my original answer was. I'm not afraid to challenge. I'm not afraid to ask questions. And I'm not afraid to explore new avenues. Like I said earlier in this interview, I know when to ask for help. And I know when to bring another set of eyes or two in to review and look at something. With those individuals having the hands-on experience themselves, something that they've experienced that I have not had the opportunity. I place high value in that. That unfortunately has not been really applied a whole lot in the years past. But this is the 21st century. So we need to be able to be an evergreen process and make sure we're doing the right thing for the residents and the community in general.
Political office holders are leaders. Describe your leadership style.
Boy, that's a loaded question. Actually, it's listening with open ears. I by far am not a dictatorship oriented. Absolutely not. I have found through my job experience of putting the right people with the right expertise in the right positions. And I can make final decisions without any issue or without any problems. However, I place high value on the input from my hierarchy below me and along with parallel path of the city residents. So I try to listen openly with open ears, open arms, and make a collective decision going forward that what is in the best interest of the people going forward. I am not big on private projects or what's the private personal gain that can be, gathered in the long term. I could care less about that. I have never looked at anything like that in my management career. It is more taking care of the group, taking care of the residents, the citizens. So open ears, open arms, open office,
What would you say are your own personal core values? I know you've touched on family and togetherness. Do you have anything else?
Well, there's an old saying, God, family, country. And I was raised Christian based. I'm still Christian based. And I place a lot of value on that, especially when we bring the family aspect into it. There's a lot of right and wrong, both ways going on in our world today. So I put a lot of emphasis and faith on doing the right thing. Right's right, wrong is wrong. Very seldom do you have that gray area, the fence line. If you do have, it's because you don't have all the data or information. 9 times out of 10, if you're in that situation, your personal gut, your stomach will tell you, this don't feel right. And I learned long ago, that when you're in that situation, you better listen to the internal feelings that you have, because most of the time they will prevail and guide you in the right way. I learned that the hard way. You know, I went outside those feelings and I thought, well, I'm going to do this because this is what I know. And it come back to haunt me. Like I said earlier, I'm not perfect. I've had to learn along the way. The trick, and here's another old saying, to err is human. But, you know, the trick to it is to learn by your failures and learn by your prior decisions. You will cross that path again and be faced to make another decision very similar. Remember what you did before and make corrections going forward. So I hope I answered your question.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, next question. Do you know your win number?
Oh, yes. Well.
Okay. And what is it?
51%? No. You're asking a question that is very dynamic right now. It's very fluid. Reason is, we know where the last 3 years' numbers, we know what the registered voter is, voter registration. However, COVID-19 has turned that upside down. And the percentage that leads at the end of the day is going to be the winner. I can't recite to you hardcore numbers. You know, out of 10,000 voters in the city of Parkersburg, that's, you know, typically has a history of voting. Some will vote, some will not, because they don't want to get out. They're unaware of the mail-in voting that's going on right now. We have been targeting a lot of the younger generation in our, you know, campaigning from remote, of trying to get them to interact and jump in and make a difference. So, you know, I hate saying this so vaguely, but at the end of the primary, it's who's carrying the highest percentage of the people. Of course, that winner will go on to the general election in November. So, and maybe in November, with things hopefully calming down before this next round of the COVID-19 hits, we'll be able to predict within 5% of what that number is. I wouldn't even attempt to publicize a number like that right now. It's just too dynamic, and there's too many influences taking place. So whoever has the most votes at the end of the day is going to get it. And,
so our next question is two-part. What do you think you will enjoy the least if you serve as our mayor? And what would excite you the most about that position?
Very easy, very easy. The least part is having to deliver some of the news and information regarding these reductions coming forward. There's no easy way around that. And as I said, we're looking outside the box of trying to create new paths going forward to soften that, and to be able to work with the organizations that are going to have to be dealing with that. So that's tough. That's tough in any type of job, any manager, because you don't like interrupting a livelihood of a good employee or a good business that supports you from behind the scenes, as a support role. But it's out of our control. We're going to be forced to do it. Now, what's the good side? Bringing Parkersburg back in, bringing a family orientation back in, re-jumpstarting our local business, and seeing the triumph across the board, and a lot of opportunity there. And I don't like using the word problem. I was educated long ago that if you got an issue out there and everybody calls it a problem, it's an issue because no one else was able to figure out the answer. So I look at it as an opportunity to come forward and apply something that I may have in my back pocket, literally from my job experience, and find a solution, working solution for that opportunity. And I've been lucky. I've been able to do that quite frequently in my career. So I look for all that as the good side of it's a grand opportunity to turn this place not upside down, but turn it around and get us back into the family orientation. I put a lot of emphasis on that. Business, yes, you got to have hardcore business. Absolutely, parallel path. But we've lost a lot in the last couple decades. And I grew up when we could walk the streets or play basketball in the downtown streets and play till 11 o'clock at night in the summers. And you had no fear. There was no threat, no safety issue. Can't do that today. And I really feel bad for the kids growing up. They're really being held back. So I think I rattled enough about that one.
As the mayor of Parkersburg, you would be the ambassador of the city. What would you say to other people about what you're proud of about Parkersburg?
That's another good question. Parkersburg has extremely rich history. I cherish that. I'm from Wood County. I'm from Parkersburg. I was born in Parkersburg. And as I've got older, and as the internet and the different websites have come forward, the information of our history being posted out there is phenomenal. And I take a lot of pride in Parkersburg. And if you look back to what we went through from the early beginnings to where we're at today, a lot of highs and lows, but it's been an evergreen process. And we're at one of those crossroads right now to make some high impact. But I place personally a lot of value on our history. And there's a lot of great things that worked good over the years. And we lost eyesight of those. And I would like to bring those back into the limelight. And here again, return the city back to the residents. If elected, I'm only the mayor. I work for the residents. They don't work or answer to me. And any individual that wins that needs to recognize that. They answer to the residents. And we need to listen with open ears. What do they want? What do they need? And did that answer that question?
Yes.
So we're gonna jump right into our final section. This should be the easiest. These are softball questions. We'd like to know what your favorite thing or place is in our city.
Oh, that's easy. Personally, if I'm trying to sort out things, think about different topics, and I want some personal time, I will go down to the riverfront and sit on the riverbank or sit on the bench or the swing and just watch the ducks, watch the barges, watch the guys, watch the families do the boating and skiing. But it's so serene that you can do a lot of soul searching and figure out a lot of different answers to questions. And it's just not a seasonal thing. I'm down there year round. Even when the park is, basically closed to traffic, you can still walk in. It's cold in the wintertime, but I spend a lot of time on the river down there. Now, as a group favorite place, most definitely City Park. I really enjoy watching the families have cookouts and picnics and watch and just listen to the kids. The laughs, the giggles, that'll just re-jumpstart anybody that, you can shut your eyes and just listen to what's going on. If you're up around the pool, listen to them laugh and you enjoy a great time. They have no concern whatsoever in the world. They're just totally stress-free. I find that gives a lot of energy of kind of resetting everything. But I do enjoy spending time at the park, whether it's walking, sitting, driving around. It's a good family orientation place. Mm-hmm.
So what are you passionate about?
Twofold, actually threefold. Family. Okay, that's probably number one. Number two, public safety across the board, not only for the residents and the family, but for the businesses as well. I know the businesses are getting tired of being broke into, vandalized, having their dumpsters and everything emptied out, and that goes along with the residents. There's a high occurrence of the vandalism, bicycles being stolen, theft across the board taking place, and their weekly trash being ripped open and scattered in the street before the trash sanitary people can get there and pick it up. We have hundreds of security videos across the city that has been turned in. We know who the culprits are. It's very simple, very easy. So, well, I address that, absolutely. That'll be one of my, included in my first agenda item of public safety. So,
So family, public safety, and you said there were three things.
economic redevelopment.
Okay.
Saving our businesses. Yeah, saving our businesses. And I said this earlier and I'll say it again. Without infrastructure and business and the private domain in operation, Parkersburg has nothing. So emphasis and priority now has to be placed on them. And COVID-19 really brought that to the limelight. So it was always an issue of mine of catering to the business because there's so much that can be done. We have never done or offered that opportunity. So if you dig through my notes on early agenda items, you'll find that. But unfortunately, COVID-19 has brought it to the forefront. And it's critical. It is absolutely critical.
Tell us your hobby or what you like to do in your off time.
Oh, that's fun. I volunteer a lot for community projects and organizations, and I find value in that. Everything I try to do, I try to have some sort of asset value or value asset to it. So I enjoy volunteering. Photography. I'm playing catch up on the digital world. I'm an old 35 millimeter guy, but on top of that would be fireworks. If anybody has watched any of the big fireworks shows on the Ohio River in the last 22, 25 years for homecoming, I was the creator of those shows. I was the one that picked the shells, oriented the sequence, directed it, and coordinated it. So I do that for several communities, providing them a free service. I don't charge them a dime for it, but fireworks is big on my list. And so if you ever was curious about who was behind that show at the riverfront, I was the one that did it. So those are the big ones. You know, spending quality time with my kids, of course, is top of the list. But they're getting old enough now. They've basically are establishing their own life. So when we are together, family-wise, it's family. And, you know, I put all my attention into that. So it's the cycle of life, I guess you could say.
So what is most unique about you?
Multifaceted, I guess you could say. I've got multi-tangents of job experience that all tie together. And I think I mentioned this very early in the interview. I've learned to apply all of those on anything I do. So I look at that as an advantage over the other candidates. Everybody has their shining star, don't take me wrong. I'm fortunate enough that I've got 2 or 3 of them really or more to pick from. And they all can be directly applied to the requirements that the mayor is going to need.
And with that, we come toward the end of our broadcast. So we would like to give you a few minutes to tell us and the voters anything you feel we need to know that maybe we haven't covered, including how to get more information on your campaign, how to get in touch with you, donate, get involved, etc.
Absolutely. And with the COVID-19, we've had to back up and try to capitalize on social media outlets and the general, I don't want to say press, but the general communication through the public, trying to find out how's the best way to do that. But Facebook, if you look me up on Facebook, Michael A. Cottrell, that'll give you a direct link to my mayor page. And my mayor's page is Cottrell for Mayor. Those two are tied tightly with each other. We're concentrating on Cottrell for Mayor, putting all of our new ads and our new posts on there. Feel free to reach out and call my cell phone, 304-483-0108. I've openly publicized that on Facebook, and I'm not shy. I'm a people person. Send me a text, send me a cell phone call. And you'd be surprised how many people has been reaching out. I've just been tickled to death. So great support, and they're not shy either. You know, if they've got an issue, they've went out there and looked and did their homework, and they've been able to find me very easily. So in trying to wrap this up at the end here, my agenda is pretty simple. It's the public safety, supporting the law enforcement, the fire protection, EMS, the 911 dispatching. I've stood shoulder to shoulder, and I've worked in all of those roles through the years. So I know what they need. I know where our shortcomings are, but improving their job across the board, providing a better, higher quality service to our residents is paramount. Without those organizations, our families are at risk. Our assets that are found within the city are at risk. Going a little bit further outside of that is clean up Parkersburg across the board. That's drug and traffic of the drugs. Very easy issue to address. It's going to take someone with backbone and it's willing to stand up to it and challenge and take care of it. The homeless is 2 avenues. The homeless is, we'll always have homeless in Parkersburg. We've always had them. Very small percentage of the population. You never see them. They never cause problems. We take care of them at our food outlets, our pantries, our missions. The issue is the outfall from some of the rehab centers and some of their friends that has brought other friends in. And it's all captured on video. And I don't want to stereotype, but we've got a big problem there. And they need some assistance and guidance from us to get on the right track. The theft, the B&Es, I mentioned that earlier, taking care of it, and the economic redevelopment. Will we look at new business? Absolutely, absolutely. But we got to salvage and save our own first. And that is absolutely paramount taken place, and making sure we address that. And I kind of include that with the infrastructure enhancement. You need that development going forward, but at the same time, you got to address your infrastructure, from anything from the streets and sidewalks to sanitary and storm sewers. So a pet peeve of mine is public access to the internet. And yes, to the adults, most definitely. But you know what? We've got a younger generation out there that's in school. They need every possible tool they can get to be successful in their career. So I'm big on providing those tools at all levels. You know, the senior business owners down to the first grader, second grader. I want to bridge the gaps of all the different disciplines, whether it's North End, South Side, whether it's internet, no internet. The list goes on forever. But I want to be that mediator that can compromise, there's your guys' word, to bring some solutions and answers to those open gaps. So I would like to say, donations. If anybody's interested in donating, that information is on our Facebook page, Cottrell for Mayor. And yes, we are accepting financial donations. We're accepting donations of services in kind. We're thinking outside the box, but staying within the legal guidelines. So we know what brought that all about. So I really appreciate your guys' time and your effort to pull all this together for the city and the residents and Mid-Ohio Valley. I missed something earlier. I kept referring to the residents of the city. That's the immediate impact audience. We must realize and understand that the mayor has intense impact on our county residents. Even though they live outside the city, what the city does and supports and provides highly influences and impacts the residents out in the county. Let's face it, our retail, our restaurants, high percentage of them are located within the city, and city limits are just adjacent within a quarter mile or so of the city line. We can't overlook how important our county residents are. It's vital, absolutely vital. So with that, I will say thank you again. And I wish more groups would do this. Maybe you guys will set a new precedence and we'll get something new started. And with victory in the primary, I would really like to see you all do this again going into the general election. Maybe do it a couple times through the summer. And,
we're hoping to do it through the whole election cycle, primary and general. Well, Mike, we want to thank you for taking the time to interview with us and put yourself out there. And everyone, you and everyone else, stay safe and wash those hands.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please take the